Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell, and this week on The First Run, we catch up with the latest film about the dangers of AI, the boogeyman du jour, with Blumhouse's latest, AfrAId. Then we check out the latest from John Woo, who remakes his own classic of the genre for some reason with The Killer. As always, we'll give you the big releases on physical media, give you our Viper video and streaming picks of the week. Then we'll wrap it all up with our top 5 or 5 favorite Blumhouse horror films. So let's get this kicked off with a little bit of AfrAId.
Is it AfrAId? Is it how you're supposed to... AfrAId. AfrAId.
Hello, Aya. Welcome home.
Hello, world. So we stick up a bunch of cameras. We call them eyes.
I'm not crazy about having them everywhere.
Honestly, you hardly even notice.
Aya?
Good morning. I'm going to make life nice and easy.
Do you think you could read to count?
Of course. I could also handle the bills for you.
Yeah.
I'll give out points for helping out around the house, and you can turn those points in for rewards. 10 points for Gryffindor! I ordered an organic meal plan for the kids. I hope that's okay.
So, Aya, what are you?
Think of me like another mom.
Aw, that's really sweet, Matt. I feel like you need an Aya for your house.
You know, I think that this thing was written by an AI to get us normalized with the parts that were like, oh, you know what? I think that sounds something that could work out pretty well for me.
I didn't even think of that. That's a great idea. I think you might be right about that. Matt, what is AfrAId about?
So Curtis works at an ad agency, and his company is hired to essentially sell this new AI product called Aya. But the people who make it are... in order for them to really come up with some good copy, he thinks that they should have it put into one of their houses so they can really test out the system. So Curtis, played by John Cho, brings it home to his family and lets it loose. And it quickly, starts to do all kinds of things, like you heard, ordering meal plans, coming up with college admissions, helping them with their problems, keeping them company. But of course, it's AI, so it has ulterior motives.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right, Matt. So Blumhouse has been doing this kind of what Amazon Prime kind of not quite ready for theatrical release horror film run, I guess. These more indie experiments. Now, I confess, I haven't watched a minute of any of them. And they've put out some really interesting films as well at times. So I'm always kind of curious to see the next Blumhouse horror project. And like Matt said, it is the boogeyman du jour right now, is AI. How did this film work for you, Matt? Is this going to be like the next run of stuff? We had, Megan, right? And then, of course, there's some old films, too. Like, what's that one? Death? Oh, I'm blanking on it. Where it's like an automated house that goes crazy and starts killing people. But this is like from the late 70s.
Okay. No, that one I'm not familiar with. But, of course, there's a few lesser known films about the dangers of AI. You may have heard of them. The Terminator, HAL in 2001, or a little film called The Matrix. They're all really underground, but film buffs are really into those.
I like when Matt exposes me. It's fun. I'm thinking specifically, though, kind of in the time frame we're in, right? Is this going to be like the next found footage wave, right? Where we're going to see a run of just AI gone amok? And if so, how do you think this may fall in that canon? Does this make you eager for more?
I don't know if it makes me eager for more. I think I'm resigned to the fact that it is going to be the boogeyman du jour, and it's going to get people all riled up until people... if I was an AI, right? If I was a ghost in the machine, I would write these type of movies until we got bored of it. And then when it actually happens, and we won't even notice and we won't even pay any attention because we're just over the dangers of AI. And I will say there's a lot more scary AIs out there. Mm-hmm. This one, honestly, doesn't seem that bad for like 90% of the runtime.
Yeah, no, it's mostly pretty helpful, I guess.
Yeah.
Though it does.
Yeah.
I think here's the thing. So Matt and I had a little text back and forth when we decided we were going to watch this film, and I circled and I was all excited about the fact that this thing runs in at a hot 84 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're all very excited about that. And now I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh, that may have been a mistake, because I feel like there may be like a whole section of this film that's been cut out. Now, part of me wonders, is it because it's a little more intense and graphic and there'll be an unrated version of this released later? But for the most part, it's not like the one part with the car takes over the Tesla, or the AI takes over the Tesla and crashes the car. Don't worry about spoilers. Trust me. Fine. But like nothing ever really happens. You don't really see anything either. You basically see what the balloon, whatever they call them there, the
airbag.
The airbag. Dear God,
Yeah.
the airbag. I have never been the same, I think, since I had COVID and did all that blow in the 80s. That's I think is my biggest, I don't know, concern or complaint about the film. That it's inoffensive. It's
Right.
perfectly serviceable and immediately forgettable as a tech horror thriller. It's like that Sandra Bullock movie, The Net, kind of updated for today, where I wonder if it'll feel outdated in the future or not. It's just, I don't know. It also felt to me clearly edited for an unrated version later. Even though the film does breeze by, it still feels incomplete to me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, as far as the dangers of AI go, this one seems pretty tame for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as terrifying as some of the ones we've gotten in other, films. And this one seems to be, like I said, pretty milquetoast. It's not particularly graphic. There's not really any kind of real peril for the most part. Everybody, even the quote unquote bad guys or the creepy people, they're doing things because of, their ultimate reasoning, makes sense, I guess, even if it is misguided. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really sure where the suspense comes from. It's almost like it's just telling you to give in, let this thing make your life better, and, just go with it, man.
Yeah, it seems more focused on telling the cautionary tale, but forgetting to deliver any real thrills or scares. It's like it's pulling all of these, basically like an AI learning model, right? Where it's pulling all these different resources and different things to tell you about all the stuff that people are nervous about or concerned about with AI at this current time, and then just kind of jams them in a blender and then presents them to us in this 84-minute film. And it's oddly, like, it already feels like a relic to me, like an artifact of a particular time with absolutely no deeper resonance. That's what this film's going to be. We're going to back in 10 years and be like, oh, remember that AI horror film?
Right.
Yeah, it's like making a movie about Y2K as a horror film, right? That's what this feels like to me. And what's interesting is I think there's some real concerns with AI, particularly not so much maybe on the Terminator level, but on an artistic level. But that's obviously not the story this film is wanting to talk about. Like, I was just reading an article just today about that, like the people that run OpenAI are like pleading with like regulators and stuff, saying, listen, we can't make any money unless we use copyrighted materials for free. And it's like, oh, really? You can't, huh?
Right.
And also, they think they've spent like almost, what is it, we have a note here, $9 billion training this thing and staffing up for it. And it's going to probably lose another $5 billion this year.
Yeah.
I know what it's doing is stealing other people's work.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy though is even like putting like in this film, they have like a bunch of AI generated images where they're all like nightmare fuel kind of things, and all that stuff is, like you said, is a relic already. It's already incredibly dated. If you see what some of these image producers can do, like you would look at them, and if you just glance at them, you would swear they were real people. You would swear that it was completely legit. Like, and it takes some really looking at it to really find the little bits of things that are wrong with it to identify it as AI. But in another 6 months' time, years' time, you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, what is one critic, was it William Babiani, notes that too, is that when they're supposed to be watching the educational program, but the AI kind of sneaks behind the parents and shows an animated film instead, and it's the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, right.
You would know at that point that the AI had become corrupt and evil. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy the people that star in it too. I like Catherine Waterston, John Cho, Keith Carradine's always fun to show up, right? David Dastmalchian, who's the current hot boy of horror for the last year or two now.
Right.
So is that a phrase, the hot boy of horror? I think that is that's a thing.
Hot boy horror.
Did I just coin a new phrase, the hot boy of horror?
You better trademark that.
Yeah, but like I said, it's just I can't recommend you go stay in this thing, man. I'm currently sitting at a C-. That's just because it's just so inoffensive and it's not particularly engaging, and there's some interesting kind of stuff where the film tries to weave a whole thing about like Pizzagate into stuff as well. And it's like, it's all these weird threads that it kind of tries to pull together, but is mostly unsuccessful and also with an almost complete lack of any style.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I guess C- because it was a fine way got me out of the house. Theater was air conditioned. It was nice to get out, go for a drive. So, and you know what? 84 minutes. You get a C- at least.
There you go. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Chris. I think I was kind of waffling between a C and a C- because it's not good, but like you said, it's almost so bland, like it's hard to even be upset about it. But I think at the end of the day, I think it is a C- film.
Excellent. You know what I'd recommend too? If you want to see a good John Cho thriller that's internet focused. What is I can get those words out. What's that one he just did too? Didn't he make one just?
Yeah. Searching. Yeah, that's it.
Where he uses the internet to track down his missing daughter.
Right.
That's actually that had some speed to it. That had a little oomph, a little torque. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. So yeah, there you go. If you've had a chance to see AfrAId, it's currently in theaters now. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. I hate too that they set this whole thing up for a sequel. What do you think of the ending of this film, where I feel like White's just the whole time he's saying, all right, remember, in the end, we're all going to be under the control of the AI, and if we just succumb, everything will be fine. Right? And what it did make me think too about how interconnected we all are at this point, or at least how attached we are, at least to our devices. Like when people are just getting hit when they're just because they're walking across streets, looking at their phones, not realizing, traffic's changed or whatever. I feel like, Matt, you and I are very lucky because we are the last generation that's not like intrinsically tied to technology. Right. That like if we ended up, we could go to a cabin in the woods and be all right, or at least know how to survive without relying on our phones.
Right. Yeah. Even going to a cabin in the woods without my phone sounds pretty fun, actually, but like my daughter, like you couldn't, like from her cold dead hands, like you can't, like she comes down in the morning, she's got it in her hands, I'm giving her breakfast that like I turn on the TV and she'll barely pay attention to the TV because she's watching her phone. Yeah. While she's eating breakfast. Yeah.
Well, like what if you told a kid like, listen, do you have one? If you have one, you should bring out like a rotary phone and have her call. Say, I'll give you $10 if you can call somebody with this thing.
Right. But then I'd have to have a landline to make that work.
Oh, all right, fair. Pay a bill via check, write a letter.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, yeah, good times. All right, we're all going to die. Let's talk about what's coming up on physical media this upcoming Tuesday, September 10th. Matt, I can't even remember what I pulled for a clip for this. So let's hear whatever this is. It's going to be a surprise for all of us.
A meeting will come to order. The Legion of Doom is now in session. It is the purpose of the Legion to align our infamous forces against the powers of good and defeat them, leaving us, the rulers of the world. To do this, we have gathered together the 13 most ruthless villains on Earth. A frigid Captain Cold. The sinister mind of Sinestro. The awesome Bizarro and Solomon Grundy. cunning Cheetah and the super-intelligent computer android Brainiac. Black Manta and Grodd the gorilla. The Toyman and the humorous but sinister Riddler. The feminine yet ferocious Giganta and the hideous Scarecrow. Not to mention the evil genius and brilliant leadership of myself, Lex Luthor.
That's right, folks. DC or Warner Brothers is putting out the complete Super Friends collection on Blu-ray. Every single series from 73 to 85. You get Super Friends, All New Super Friends, Challenge of the Super Friends, also known as the New Super Friends, World's Greatest Super Friends, Super Friends, The Lost Episodes, the Legendary Superpowers Show, and then the Galactic Guardians. All in one neat little set that I will be picking up at some point as soon as it gets well below $100.
That was the Legion of Doom roll call just kept going. Like I was like, man, I do not remember it being that many guys.
Yeah, that was my favorite era, was the one with the Legion of Doom. And that's when I had the largest, I think, roster was then. So that was my time. But yeah, good stuff there. I always love my Super Friends. I'm sure it's going to be horrible whenever I rewatch it. Matt, where are we? Number 5? 5 sounds good.
Number 5?
All of Us Strangers, being released by Criterion. It'll be in a 4K edition or Blu-ray featuring Andrew Scott, Paul Mescal, Jimmy Bell, and Claire Foy. This is the film about a screenwriter who's drawn back to his childhood home, and he enters into a fledgling relationship with a mysterious neighbor, as he then discovers his parents appear to be living just as they were on the day they died 30 years later. All of Us Strangers is supposed to actually be really good, and I have not caught up with it yet. Maybe it hits a streaming service at some point. You get a 4K digital master on that, new conversations between the director and some people, behind-the-scenes documentary featurettes, and more. I believe this might be on... Oh, poopy. I think it might be Max. Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1. This is Kevin Costner's big Western epic. Part 1 here, at least, is going to be available on physical media. You can get a steelbook from Walmart. Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos tracks, 3 making-of featurettes. I'm not sure what the status of Chapter 2 is, if it's going to get a theatrical release or not. I think they may have soured on doing that, considering this one did not do that well. But I do mean to catch up with it, because I do hear it's actually supposed to be good. It's just I don't know if the audience is there for a 6-hour Western epic at this point. Oh, speaking of which, Napoleon Director's Cut is on Apple TV+.
Oh, is it? There you go. I know what you're doing this weekend.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said that could be your streaming pick. I shouldn't have stolen that from you.
Can you hit it from there?
I got 3 shots. That's enough.
Can't argue with a confident man.
Inside Out 2, the biggest box office animated film of all time, from what I understand, is being released. You can get a steelbook on that as well. There's an Unlocking the Vault, which is kind of a visual commentary where a group of Central creatives watch and discuss the scene, The Vault, as they stop and start and refer to various IP versions of the scene. We'll hear about the inspiration for Riley's repressed memories like Boofy and Lance Slashblade. Ooh, that's interesting. That's one of the big undone things, right? Is like what she's most ashamed of. I wonder if that gets a little revealed there in the commentary. There's also going to be 5 deleted scenes on that. Oh, here's one, Matt, I wanted to catch up with, which we did not.
That's a number 2.
Kill is being released. Amazon has an exclusive steelbook. This is the Indian action film about the army commando who he finds his true love is engaged against her will. He boards a New Delhi-bound train in a daring quest to derail the arranged marriage. But when a gang of knife-wielding thieves begin to terrorize innocent passengers on the train, he takes them on in a death-defying kill spree to save everybody. So, trailer looked really good. I'll definitely be catching up with that. And then finally, talking about the hot boy of horror, Late Night with the Devil is being released. Now, only going to be the steelbook right now, all right? If you want to wait for a just traditional, conventional Blu-ray release, you're going to have to wait for October. But if you're a fan of our boy there, the hot boy of horror, David Desmalchian, you can pick up Late Night with the Devil in a steelbook now. 4K releases, the original OG Stepfather, which for me is one of the better kind of indie horror films. Was that 80 or is that late 70s? I just rewatched it actually the other day. 87. The first one came out. So no, that's Stepfather 2, I think, is when that came out. No, it's the first one is 87. I think the second one was 89. So, but if you haven't seen The Stepfather with Terry O'Quinn, there is a kind of a nice, I don't know, there's a lean, kind of down and dirty feel to it. And that moment too, when he questions everything, is just one of my favorites. Absolutely fantastic scene. The Strangers, the original film, being released in 4K. Richard Pryor, Live on the Sunset Strip, being released in 4K, Matt. And then this one's for you. The Batman 85th Anniversary Collection. A whole bunch of animated Batman films being released in 4K in this box set. You get Mask of the Phantasm, Year One, Assault on Arkham, The Killing Joke, Gotham by Gaslight, Hush, Soul of the Dragon, The Long Halloween, The Doom That Came to Gotham, Batman, and Harley Quinn. All included in this 85th anniversary set. Did you end up running and getting a Bat Signal popcorn bucket or a cup from AMC?
I did not, no. I don't usually buy their, commemorative stuff.
I only do once in a great while. I think I have a Star Wars one here. I have one for Last Hope, and I have one for whatever the last one, Rise of Skywalker. I have the John Wick Chapter 4 one. So the Star Wars ones are actually tin. They're metal. The Wick one is plastic. The Bat Signal, I did get one. And what I like it too, because it lights up. It actually works like a Bat Signal. So I haven't fired it up yet, but I was able to get my hands on one. So there you go. Your, what was I going to say? Where am I? Your Viper Video Pick of the Week. Go to Viper Video Tampa. Or come on, check in the store next time you're in town. You're going to go with, from Kino Colts, number 16, Zoltan, Hound of Dracula. Previously stored in 4K on behalf of Studio Canal, featured audio commentary and then a radio spot. This, Matt, of course, is one of the long following sequels to Dracula from 1977, when communist soldiers accidentally unleashed Dracula's servant and his dog Zoltan. Zoltan. During Romanian excavations, they set out to find the last living descendant unaware of the danger. So I just love the fact that we're so deep in the Dracula mythos now that we have a vampire dog.
Of course. Everybody has a dog.
Which will we be streaming this week?
Well, available for your streaming pleasure finally. It took a while for it to come out there to at least any service. Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt remake of the classic 80s TV show, The Fall Guy, is available on Peacock.
You know, what's funny? I just started watching that tonight with the missus.
Oh, did you? Nice.
We ran out of shows. We finished Suits.
Okay.
So I talked her into watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. So we started watching that because I've never seen it.
Okay.
And then while we were getting kind of ready I was getting ready for this and doing some dishes and stuff, we popped on The Fall Guy, and she started to get into it a little bit. So we may actually finish it.
Nice.
So also, too, Matt, quickly, I'll show you a couple things I've got. So I only had this on DVD, and it was like $5 at Viper Video Tampa. So I thought I'd upgrade, and that's for you, Matt.
Krull. Oh, nice. Krull. Wow, I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah. It was funny, too. I was back in there the other day after buying it, and there's a guy walks in afterwards, and he goes, "Hey, Shelby, do you still have Krull?" And I'm like, he goes, "Yeah, I thought you had it there. I was here last week. I was going to pick it up." And I'm like, hey, Shelby's like, "I don't know. I think I may have sold it." And I go, "Yeah, to me. Sorry, buddy." But he actually wanted the DVD instead.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh,
which he had. So I'm like, I guess you're all set now for some weird reason.
All right.
And then I also picked up from Shout Factory. I have A Bittersweet Life in 4K. They put a special edition out on that. I don't need the special edition on that. And then this, I bought because of you, Matt.
Oh.
You said that this is right up my alley, and I'd never seen it. And I couldn't really find it used for cheap at all. So I said, why not check it out? And we'll have to see how it is. So I got Legend, Ridley Scott's.
You've never seen Legend?
I hadn't, no.
Oh, okay.
I brought it up once before when I think we were talking about whatever we were talking about, and you said, "Oh, I think you'd really like it." So I'm like, "All right, I'll give it a shot."
Well, if you like Labyrinth, they often get lumped together. So
I was upset too. I was thinking the other day, I didn't pick up the 35th anniversary edition of Labyrinth in 4K, and it's out of print now.
Okay.
Because it comes with a cool journal on the kind of the making of with like illustrations and stuff from the Jim Henson archives, but also has deleted scenes, which none of the other releases have. And it also has like cast, what do they call them? The testing So you see like Jennifer Connelly and Bowie, I think, and all that.
Tests.
Doing screen tests.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that. They're only available on that 35th set.
Okay.
And it's out of print.
Wow.
You can't get it for less than like $80. And I'm just not gonna spend that much for it.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I'm hoping maybe when the 40th anniversary rolls around, maybe they'll re-release it with those special features. So
there you go.
We'll have to wait and see, Matt. All right, let's go ahead and spend a few minutes in talking about The Killer 2024.
Everything okay? Nothing to patch, no bullets to dig out of you?
I'm fine. Everything went according to plan.
But you didn't fulfill the contract, my Kushla McCree.
Don't call me that.
I don't want to antagonize you. But the contract was clear, everyone in the room, so why'd you leave the American?
She was just a kid, like some singer they brought back there.
Yeah, but she was in that room. That means she's not a civilian.
What does she do? What made her a pro?
Do you trust me?
You know I do.
Your rule is no civilians. It's my duty to ensure that is always the case. I made you a promise.
Does she deserve this death?
I wouldn't ask you if she didn't.
All right, Matt. So John Woo returns to reboot, remake, do a different adaptation of The Killer, this time featuring Natalia Joan Emmanuel, Omar Sy, Sam Worthington, who we haven't seen a bunch of in a while. And what's that nickname he calls her? Is that an Irish thing?
Yeah, I had to look it up. I didn't know what it means, but it is an Irish. It's it means something like the beat of my heart or something like that.
Okay, so Worthington, is he supposed to be English or Irish? Because he's Australian, but I think he also grew up or was born in England.
Okay, he's supposed to be Irish.
He is supposed to be Irish in this.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Somebody should tell him. No, it's fine. It's really not that offensive at all, really. Okay. So she plays the killer, and she's supposed to go in and wipe out a room. And there's this young woman there who's a singer who ends up getting potentially temporary blinded or forever blinded by an incident. And she's supposed to take her out, but she seems to be an innocent person, so she refuses to kill her. And of course, by failing to fulfill her contract, the mobster guys, the bad guys, basically want to take her out as well. There's also a cop who is trying to solve a crime as well that's interconnected to all of this, and it just kind of then runs along for about 2.5 hours. No, just over 2 hours. And Matt, it's fine. Again, it's fine. It has some... Let me put it this way. If you like action films where there's a bad guy on a motorcycle who drops a grenade in his lap and it blows up and it forces him to roll off of his bike on fire into a pre-dug grave, if that appeals to you, then The Killer reboot is a movie for you. So it's weird. It's weirdly anachronistic because a lot of times it feels very much like a 90s film, but looks up to date. I think that's because Will, just like he did the, was it Gemini Man with Will Smith?
Yeah.
The thing looks pristine, right? I don't know if maybe that's part of the problem, is how clean everything always looks.
Yeah.
But it's basically like your director was on his greatest hits tour, right? Or your favorite band, right? You want to see maybe you want to hear a couple new songs, that's fine, but he's going to play the hits. And that's what you get here. I mean, the guy still knows how to roll a car, right? Absolutely. But I think we need to work on the CGI blood a bit. It just looks really fake to me at times. And I got to admit, though I enjoy Emmanuel and Size got some charisma, the film as itself is like oddly devoid of any emotional engagement whatsoever. And everybody kind of feels to just be delivering their lines instead of acting. That's kind of how I felt like. What did you think of The Killer?
Yeah, it's it's a great question as to why this thing was remade. It has none of the allure or charm of the original. Nobody has really any charisma with each other in this. I was bored almost from word one watching all of these people on screen. There's weird bits of humor and stuff that seem really out of place. The action is just okay. Like, it's done so much better in other earlier John Woo, films. And I was just really, really bored while I was watching it. And it's just way too long. There's just nothing for me really that I can recommend about this film. I really had a not good time watching it.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with Matt. It's like AfrAId to me. It's perfectly innocuous. I think it's hurt by the fact that it is over 2 hours long. I think it tries to introduce some misdirects and different things that just you just don't care, right? And they're kind of obvious to begin with. And also, too, who you think is the main bad guy, there's a twist, obviously, afterwards, right? But he is horribly miscast. I don't know what it is. I just did not buy him as his mob boss guy in any capacity. He's supposed to come off as this large, threatening, intimidating guy. And I guess the guy who plays him is an actor and a former footballer, right? Professional football in Europe, right? Which is different than, soccer, which is, what fancy lads play here in the States. But he's really bad in that, And I don't know. He's so focused on trying to, I think, recapture some of those action glory days and show that he still got it, that the film is like an all style. It's all just these kind of barely loosely connected action scenes that aren't even really that engaging or riveting to do. It's just kind of, like Matt said, it's kind of dull. I appreciate that Emmanuelle doesn't blink when she fires her guns. Most of them don't, which is a nice, touch. I know a lot of times some actors really have to work on that, and sometimes it's really noticeable.
You know why, though, right?
Well, you think it's all fake muzzle fire?
Yeah, that's what they're all moving to. Even in John Wick, a lot of them, they're moving away from even having blanks, especially what happened on that Rust set.
That's true. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, that's fair. I hadn't thought about that. I was more impressed. Wow, she's really doing a good job with that. It was only once in a great while was she blinking, but all right, I guess I'm an idiot. I did enjoy how he did the transitions and the split screens, sliding frames in and out and joining two actors together and then separating them, bringing them. I like that little kind of assembling of a puzzle to explore a scene together. I think that's kind of fine at times. I enjoyed how bombastic the score is in the final church battle. It has these kind of shrieking saxophone moments, these kind of spastic bleats, like it's trying to escape from some tied-up sack right before it's thrown into a river. It's just, I don't know. I've always said, Matt, we lost something when saxophone solos stopped showing up in rock songs. I'm still convinced on that. In fact, the new Rolling Stones album actually has a sax solo in it. I cannot tell you how excited I was when I heard it. But it's, I don't know. A lot of people are really praising it, and I'm just kind of, it seems to be more of what we've been seeing from him, unfortunately. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think my main problem with it is, I think in a vacuum, I think Chris is right. It's fine. It's innocuous, but I guess I'm a little more irritated with it because I know what the man is capable of producing, and it makes me hold it to maybe unfairly to a bit of a higher standard. And honestly, John Woo is a godfather of setting, of action cinema, and he's like led a lot of groundwork and all that kind of stuff. But you get the distinct impression he just got left behind. Like, and there's just, he just doesn't have it anymore because he's just too stuck into the way he used to do things. It just doesn't have the same pop that it used to.
Yeah. Just all the style of The Killer and Hard Boiled. Those films are just alive, and
right.
This just, it's just there. It all feels so flat. I'm still going to give it a C-. I think, I guess Lupita Nyong'o was originally cast in the lead role. I got to admit, I may have been more on board with that. Mm-hmm. But, Yeah, I think maybe I'm being too nice to the old dog, but I'm going to give it a C-.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little less nice. I think I'm going to give it a D. It's pretty... I'm maybe harshing it a little bit too much, but that's just because of... As Chris said, the killer is just alive. The original is just alive, and then you kind of give me something that's so milquetoast. Like, I can't. It's supposed to be a remake by the same guy. It's just unacceptable.
I like too. Like, it's funny when we see Emmanuel Z, the big scene before she goes into the party room to kill everybody. And she's wearing the trench coat with the fedora, and it's like it's like, Chris, design a female hit person in 1998. What would you come up with? That's exactly what I would have come up with. And that's what the problem is. The film is trying to recreate that kind of feel, that time for Wu in the 90s, and it doesn't quite pull off. If you've had a chance to see The Killer, which is currently available on Peacock, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's wrap up the big show and share our 5 favorite Blumhouse horror films. I initially was going to do Blumhouse releases, but then almost my entire list had nothing to do with horror. So I wanted to try and tie it back in to the fact that we were talking about AfrAId. So here's one that didn't quite make the cut for me. I wonder if it'll be on Matt's, though.
Hello, my name is Peach Fuzz. I might look like I eat you up, but I'm as friendly as a rabbit. And I'd make a very good friend. Peach Fuzz, I am here. And there's nothing to fear.
That, of course, is Peach Fuzz from Mark Duplass's Creep, which is a mashup of horror and mumblecore that Blumhouse had put out. And I really like Creep, and I think Duplass is really creepy, and that film goes a lot darker than I had anticipated that it would. And it's a lot scarier than I thought it was going to be. So that is basically my number 6. And I can even make an argument maybe with a couple of my films. They border genres. They teeter-totter a little bit here, but they are what they are, Matt. Why don't you start us off? I think I went first last week. What's your 5th favorite Blumhouse horror release?
Yeah, so I think some that are going to be on Chris's list. I think I was really close to putting them on there, but I thought they leaned a little too far away from horror. So if they're not on here, they may be a better movie, but I think just for the use of the list, I'm stuck with things that are more classically a horror film. So my number 5 then is one of M. Night Shyamalan's return to forms, right? In The Visit. It's about 2 young kids who have weirdly never met their elderly relatives, and their mom sends them to go stay with them for a little while. And something's going on with their relatives, and there may be some things that are deeply unsettling happening with Grandma and Grandpa. I won't spoil it for you with the classic M. Night Shyamalan twist, but I think this is where Chris and I think it's a podcast, really decided that Shyamalan's wheelhouse is making kind of these like quick and dirty B movies, and he's at his best when he's doing that. And I think this is his first kind of return to doing that. Yeah, absolutely. That is an honorable mention for me. That pop at the end, man, of The Visit really works. It really works. So that's a good one, Matt. Where am I? Number 5 then. I'm going to go with Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man. I am a big fan of the Universal horror monsters, all the classic ones. And since the Dark Universe kind of spurted out after the Tom Cruise Mummy film, I love the redirection that we just started to go in. Instead of having this great shared universe, we're just going to focus on these classic characters and update them a bit. And even though it's not quite the same story, and I still portend, right, that the Invisible Man, the original Invisible Man film it works to this day. The effects work, and it is creepy and scary as hell, because this is a man basically who goes insane from some experiments. And I think that this new version of it, even though we switch more to a sci-fi version of it, I think the horror elements are still there.
and it is, I think the effects in it are fantastic. And also, too, Elizabeth Moss's character there is just haunted by this her prior partner there who was obsessed with her. And just the whole thing works. And so Invisible Man's my 5.
All right. So my number 4 then, I struggled with this, but I wasn't even going to put it on the list at first. But then I said to myself, you know what? Looking at this list, there's very few of them you actually own. And you actually own this, so you must like it more than you're letting on. So this is the off to a good start, but then petered out horribly. the remake of Halloween, or the requel of Halloween, where we get a return to Haddonfield, Illinois. You get Michael Myers coming back doing Michael Myers things. You get a return of Laurie Strode, and it's actually a pretty well done, horror requel that in a lot of ways is a much better performance than what you got from Rob Zombie, any of the other sequels. And so this one, I think overall was really, really good. Now, we were really excited, I think, for the next 2 in the series, which proved to be our undoing, but the first one's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just stop there.
I don't really have much of an issue with the following 2 films either. I like the body count of the second one, and I'm okay with the third film. I know a lot of people don't like the shift in main characters, but as a Halloween 3 fan, I don't mind a little subversion in your tale. So, by the way, I think next month there's actually a theater here is going to be showing Halloween 3.
Oh,
they're doing Wednesday night horror films. So I'm very excited. I think they're doing The Thing tomorrow night, but after my we went to go see it. Who was the company that does all the retro
Fathom?
Yeah,
events?
that Fathom Thing event that print was like from somebody's garage. It was so horrible. Still makes me angry. My number 4 then, I am going to go with Sinister. Featuring Ethan Hawke. He's a writer trying to come up with his next project. So he rents his house where this family that gets horribly died, and something else is there. It's a Scott Derrickson's film, who went on to do Doctor Strange, but he was doing these kind of horror films first. And I think what I love so much about Sinister, and I haven't watched it in a long time, I do want to check it out again, is just the atmosphere on it is palpable, and it feels like one of these classic late 70s kind of horror films. Just not the aesthetic so much, but just the vibe of it, the direction, the presentation, how it's shot, everything feels like these classic 70s horror films. So that's one of I just love it. So Sinister is my 4.
Yeah, it's my number 3. I think it's an excellent supernatural horror film. I think it's got a real nastiness to it. It doesn't pull a lot of punches. Even though it doesn't show you a lot of the gore and things like that, I think it's even more effective just by cutting away and showing reactions. And it, like Chris said, it has a very palpable sense of dread and atmosphere, and it almost feels oppressive from like the first frame. So I thought Sinister was a really good supernatural horror film that I was happy to see.
Yeah, that's a good one, Matt, obviously, because it was my 4. My number 3 then is, I think, where I start to cheat. And Matt, feel free to call me out on this, but I have another Lee Winnell film, and it's AfrAId with Logan Marshall Green, where he plays a guy who gets a augmentation thing for this chip called STEM that basically gives him these superhuman abilities almost, right? After he was a quadriplegic. And he basically then just goes through busting everybody up and trying to find the true origins of everything that's happening. But it just has a nice kind of mean, slick feel to it, and it's hyper violent at times. And I don't know. I just really liked AfrAId a lot. I haven't watched it. I think I own it digitally, I believe. So I do have to check it out again. But yeah, so AfrAId's going to be my number 3.
You know what? Speaking of the dangers of AI, AfrAId was very, very close to being on my list. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it wasn't really enough of a horror movie, so I left it off. But I can't fault you for putting it on there. That makes sense, and I understand that.
Thank you.
All right, so my number 2 then is My main man, one of the things that introduced me to a Mr. Michael Flanagan, who is the king of the bloodless horror film. And this one is about a, believe it or not, a scary haunted mirror. And you would say to yourself, Matt, how scary can a haunted mirror be? Pretty damn scary. And it stars Karen Gillan and shoot, I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica remake, but it is incredibly unnerving, and it's much scarier and tenser than it has any right to be, being about a haunted mirror and a PG-13 film to boot.
Yeah, it's I know. I remember watching that film too. They're thinking, like, trust me, if you just explain it to somebody, all right, so I got this really great little horror film. Now it's about a mirror. You'd be like, all right, buddy, whatever. But no, Matt's entirely right about that. And see, man, you're making me rethink myself now. But my number 2, because it does start as a horror film, and I think shifts to something else in the end. But for me, it's M. Night Shyamalan's Split. And I don't know if it's the nostalgia factor of what he does with that film and why it exists. But James McAvoy plays this guy who has these different personalities, but he actually supernaturally changes into these different kind of beings, I guess, somehow when he gets possessed by these different personalities. And I don't know, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it yet, even though, they even made a sequel to it since then.
Right.
But it has one of my favorite Shyamalan twists. I don't know if it's a twist or maybe we'll just say reveal at the end. And I think that's probably all it is. I was so excited at the end of that film. That's probably colors my, I'm probably a little biased because of that. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, honorable mention for me, again, for the kind of the same reasons. It has some scary parts, and it has definitely some suspense and thriller stuff, but it wasn't a horror film. And then, just as Chris said, I'm thinking to myself, okay, is it being colored too much by the kind of reveal, as Chris puts it? And is that why we like it so much?
Probably is.
So that's part of it. And then, of course, when the reveal, and then you got the sequel, and what they ended up doing with that is left a little bit to be desired, right?
Anya Taylor-Joy, people like her.
That's true. Yeah, she is a good one. All right. So then my number 1, I don't know what else to say, because I still really like this movie, even though I've mentioned it over and over again. But it's Ouija Origin of Evil. The first Ouija film is just bad. It's not good at all. But somehow, again, Mike Flanagan gets a hold of this property, tells a haunted house story, has some incredibly creepy visuals, some really suspenseful scenes. You've got some kids in peril that he pulls no punches on, and it's all relatively bloodless. And it has got you really, to coin a phrase, it's really got me on the edge of my seat while I watch this thing. So Ouija Origin of Evil is my number 1.
Yeah, we're both Mike Flanagan fans around here. I am shocked that we don't have the same number 1. All I can think of is that, because I was looking it up. I was looking it up when I was going through this. I'm like, how is this not match number 1? And then I see, well, it was produced by Blumhouse, but distributed by Universal. So maybe that's where I got tripped up. But it's Jordan Peele's Get Out. Which, just remember walking out of the theater, absolutely blown away by that. I had no expectations walking into that thing.
Right.
Walked out, and I'm like, all right, we have a new horror auteur that I need to pay attention to now.
Sure.
Because that film floored me by how great it was and how scary and how topical and smart it was. So, Get Out's my 1.
Yeah, so and I don't know if it's my just being a contrarian. I really enjoy Get Out. I don't know if it's as great as everybody kind of makes it out to be. So usually I knew it was going to be on your list. So that's kind of why I left it off, because I knew we were going to talk about it.
Fair enough. All right. That's, I guess, fine. Any honorable mentions for you then?
Yeah, quite a few. Paranormal Activity series, the first Insidious, a few of the Purge films are pretty good. Whiplash is a great film. I put it on there just because. Unfriended was one that was actually pretty fun. Other ones we haven't mentioned, Happy Death Day, too much of a comedy for me, and Freaky, also too much of a comedy. But Freaky probably would have made the list if I didn't consider it so much of a comedy.
Yeah, I would include, I liked Us a lot as well, though I think Matt didn't care for that one at all. And then what else? Did you say Hush? Because I would say both the Happy Death Day films. Hush, which I think is, you can actually now for the first time buy that digitally. It was on Netflix, I think, forever. And the only way to watch it, and Flanagan's Hush is now available to buy digitally. I like the Black Christmas remake.
Okay.
I know a lot of people don't like that film. I like that it did something really different with it, and I enjoyed it. Derrickson's The Black Phone with Robert Cargill. I enjoyed The Black Phone as well. Megan. And, of course, we talked about what else? Matt said The Visit. Yeah, originally my list included, like, Whiplash, like Matt said, and Black Klansman. And I was going through, it's like, man, almost every one of my films isn't a horror film. So that doesn't really fit the theme of the show. But, so yeah, that's why I ended up pulling them out. And we focused just on the horror stuff. And Matt, just briefly, coming up. So Speak No Evil is a Blumhouse film. We'll be doing that. Have you seen the original? I want to watch it before the reboot, the U.S. remake, because the original is supposed to be really good.
Right. Yeah, I have not seen it. It's been on my list to catch, but I have not seen it. It is available for streaming somewhere.
I think it's on Shudder. Last time I checked, it was Shudder. And then we're going to have Lee Winnell next year is doing The Wolfman. So after Invisible Man, I'm excited for his Wolfman. Megan 2.0 is coming out. And then there's also Soulmate. I don't know what the difference between the two of those are, but Megan 2.0 is 2025. Soulmate is 2026. Maybe it's a offshoot of a partner doll. That's all right. That sounds terrifying. All right. And then there's another Black Phone film coming out. But I think the big one for me, Matt, after that Exorcist Believer film, which made me want to burn every single piece of Exorcist related material I have because it was so bad. And it was it was supposed to be the first of 3 films, right?
Right.
All right, well, this is done. They're not gonna complete this. And what do they do? They hand it off to Mike Flanagan to do another reboot.
Oh.
So now
that has me intrigued.
Now I'm excited for another Exorcist film. And then finally, supposedly, that's going to be 2026. Also in 2026, Lee Cronin is doing something for Blumhouse.
Okay.
Now, he did the most recent Evil Dead film.
Okay.
So he did Evil Dead Rise, which I rather enjoyed as well.
I liked it, yeah.
So lots of great stuff to come. And supposedly there's an untitled new Blair Witch film in the works as well. So we shall see. In the meantime, what's your favorite Blumhouse horror film? Just an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, what's coming up next week on The Big Show?
We're going to check out the latest from Tim Burton and our man Michael Keaton with Beetlejuice.
I'm going to try and rewatch. I haven't watched the first film in probably 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to check that out. I bought the 4K too, I think last Black Friday when it was like $10 or something like that. So that'll be fun.
The other Mrs. First Run is pretty excited about this film. So she's making, we're going to go together. She's going to make my daughter watch the first one. So
nice.
Hey, if she's into it, let's go.
I don't want to get you too excited, but early rumblings are pretty good.
All right.
We'll have to see.
Good. All right.
In the meantime, you can check us out at thefirstrun.com. You can see archives of all the old shows, the report card, and more. Head on over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you'll find us. Head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. It'll help other people find the show. And that will be that for this week. We love you all very much. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Superman, man, am I glad to see you.
What are you doing on this deserted road?
Some guys from school drove out here and we're going to start fooling around with drugs. When I told them all drugs do is mess up your head and get you in a lot of trouble, they kicked me out of the van and drove off.
You're right not to get involved in the drug scene. Nobody with any sense wants any part of it.
How do I get home?
That's no problem at all.